Hey free to play gang, welcome back to another video. So I am constantly paying attention to whatever that you guys are commenting down in the comment section below, and I hear that a lot of you guys do not have Suhua. So for this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you can do without Suhua, and especially since I understand how difficult it is to enter Suhua ripples. However, there are two different ways that you can do without Suhua. I'll discuss some of the various strategies that you can employ in order to effectively use them. And I know Dahlia is also one of the espers that you can only obtain via the ripple dimension, which could potentially be an issue as well, because after all, she is also going to be highly sought after. However, I do feel like Dahlia ripples are easier to access. So even recently, I've also tried to enter some Dahlia ripple dimensions to get mine capped out as well, and I found it rather easy, or at least it's a lot easier than entering Suhua ripples. So for this video, I am going to highly recommend you guys to fuse Gabrielle, because she is going to be very relevant even in K10, even though I say a lot that like Gabrielle is not so good in K10 because of her typing, blah blah blah. However, if you do not have Suhua, unfortunately there's not many options for free-to-play players to have access to defense buffs. And Gabrielle has a 2 turns defense buff, which makes her really good for like early game Kronos content. So let's take a look at how we can fuse her, right? But I'm not going to go too much into detail because I've covered this before. Go ahead and check the link at the top for a little bit more information on how I fuse Gabrielle over a single weekend. So here's how you can fuse Gabrielle. First, you will need a spare Fabrice as a fodder material, and then you need a random Inferno, Wind, and Flow type, and they do have to meet certain requirements. So like I said before, you can just check the video that I've uploaded before, and that should give you all the information that you need. Now, just ignore that we are in a ripple dimension, okay? Assume that we are looking at the mighty Kronos right now. This is a team that I think most of you guys are running, right? Something similar to this, or maybe if not for Berenice, maybe you're using a Sander or something like that, right? Just like 3 DPS, 1 Suhua, and 1 Changpu. However, if you do not have Suhua, there are many alternatives to this, and like I said earlier, I'm going to cover 2 of them, so let's take a look at the both of them. Now, if you were to find this video helpful, and if you'd like to support the channel, do consider subscribing, as subscribing is free and you can always change your mind afterwards. So now that we do not have Suhua on this lineup, we need to make do with an attack buffer, and we also need a defense buffer. So in this first approach, I am using Dahlia because I think she's still quite accessible, but I'm also using Gabrielle as the main defense buffer over here. So we can go ahead and test this out and see how it functions, but this should work really well. So if you're completely free to play and you have no experts at all whatsoever, then this can be a very viable strategy for you. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and test this out and just see how it functions. Now, what I really like about this team is it's scalable. So now we are currently running with 2 DPS experts. However, because we are using Dahlia, we can actually build Dahlia more offensively. So give her like crit damage relics, give her crit rate relics, give her attack, and maybe just give her a little bit of speed and she would function perfectly. So like let's say if your sustainability is improving over time, like let's say you're removing Changpu and you're replacing her with like let's say Hengria or Clara or some of the other greater healers in the game, then yes, for sure you can definitely build Dahlia a little bit more offensively, foregoing a little bit more of her sustainability. And of course, even though Gabrielle is off element for Kronos, she is still very useful in the sense that her second skill, which is also her defense break, hits 3 times. So even though weaker elements miss half the time, you're not going to miss that often because you have 3 chances to proc your debuff. So if you get lucky, your runs can also become slightly faster because of the defense break. And of course, Gabrielle brings immunity as well, just like Changpu. However, Changpu's AI is really quite garbage. So at least Gabrielle has a reliable form of immunity, which could in a lot of cases protect you from the stuns in this stage. And of course, using Gabrielle along with Changpu, there is an opportunity for you to stagger your immunity buffs. And if done correctly, you can have potentially unlimited immunity on your team. So anyway, this team is quite comprehensive because Gabrielle provides you with defense breaks, Drew also provides you with defense breaks, there's also heals, there's also AP boosting, and there's also a decent amount of damage output that you have on this team. And honestly, if I can recall back then, I think this is what I started off for my Kronos 10. Well, I didn't have Dahlia at that point of time, so I only had Suhua, so I actually stacked defense buff like that. But in my opinion, that was a huge waste. So I think actually Dahlia here is slightly better than Suhua if used together with Gabrielle. So let me just quickly answer how should you build Dahlia. So for Dahlia, what you want is to have a lot of speed, a lot of HP, and just a cherry on top, maybe slightly more accuracy. But frankly, you can just go straight up HP and speed and that will work, because she just needs to move fast to take more turns to use more of her third skill. So that's the end of this run. Let's take a look at another team that has just a very slight change to it. And I think a lot of you guys already know what I'm going to suggest, but we are still going to take a look at this team. Now on to team number 2, we are actually just replacing Dahlia with Anki Chai. So the thing is, Dahlia is still a ripple dimension based esper, and not everyone has the time and energy to just look at the chat and wait for a Dahlia ripple to spawn and therefore summon your Dahlia that way. I mean, I certainly don't have that kind of time anymore. So I think Anki Chai is still very relevant, and he's not all that bad. He's not just an attack buffer, he also has cooldown reduction on his kit. So I'll talk a little bit more about the builds for Anki Chai and Gabrielle while we are doing the run itself. Now I did a video on Anki Chai just a few weeks ago, and I think that the best way for you to build him is to run him with Ocean Waves. However, obviously not everyone has access to Ocean Waves at this point of time because it drops from APEP and APEP is very difficult. So if you do not have Ocean Waves, unfortunately he's not going to be as effective as he can be, but you can still run him with Windwalker and he should function the same, just much less efficient that way, but still rather good for just attack buffs. And now as for Gabrielle, the way you want to build her is just to give her a lot of speed. Now the thing is, she needs a lot of speed because she has to go first most of the time. Like let's say if you're going to use her in PvP, which you probably would, so it's probably a really good idea for you to make her super fast so that she goes first. And knowing that she goes first, she will then grant your team with a defense buff, with immunity buff, and also attack debuff on the enemy's lineup. So she's an incredible initiator and that's the way you want to build her. So honestly, nothing much really changes between using Anki Chai and Dahlia in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is, yes, even though Dahlia gives you that AP boost, it is not always that essential. And this is especially true if like you're able to clear the first 2 waves really quickly. Like you wouldn't even really need an AP boost anyway. But of course her AP boost is going to help a lot in the Kronos fight itself, because you are probably going to need a few more turns in order to take the boss down. So if that's the case, that's where Dahlia really shines a little bit more than Anki Chai for now. But I still feel that Anki Chai has a great place over here because of how he can potentially reduce the cooldown of Gabrielle in this team. And Gabrielle already has such long cooldowns of like 4 turns on her 3rd skill and I think 3 turns on her 2nd skill, which is not that bad. But that means that Gabrielle has a lot of downtime because her 1st skill practically does nothing. So yeah, I think in this sense, Anki Chai is going to be a really good fit with Gabrielle as opposed to Dahlia. So I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. And I guess I can end the video over here. So this is one team that really works very well for Kronos 10, or actually just all the stages of Kronos. So hopefully you guys learned something from this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, it really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. And this has been Daddy Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.